So, like I said, I kind of wanted to talk about some of like the recent stuff that's gone in Japan. So, I gathered a couple of things from Umadori and 14 Sokuho. Mostly Umadori this week. I talked a bit about one of them earlier. Recently, I talked about it a couple days ago as well, but recently, the topic of people that early pull in dungeons came up. In dungeons specifically. So when I say early pull, I don't mean about hunts right now. I really do just mean dungeons. So it got talked about, and of course, Elemental DC players are just like, well, that's just how it always is here. That's just how it always is. With the one that I did retweet already and translate, and I will read it. Where's my tweet? Here it is. Here it is. Here's my retweet of it. So, they kind of said, if you think I'm making this up, come up to Elemental. Healers early pulling, foreigners speed running, the menu is spinning, tanks are getting stance, instant pulls, no ready checks, all rolls are free to do whatever they want. With me joking that you could just come to NA for that. But of course, there are a lot of people that were kind of agreeing with them, that it's kind of annoying, as well as some people later saying that certain things don't really matter. Someone even made a variation of Emmett's speech. I imagine Emmett Selk being like, tell me, have you seen a healer pulling ahead of the tank in Sastasha? Or mind you, in the World of Darkness doing 360s. DPS who snap back with, you don't pay my sub, when told not to rush ahead of the tank. As the bearer of Azim's crystal, you may not consider it your duty to see that. However, I certainly have. Though, very literally, they're saying, like, aren't we all supposed to be friends here? But, you know, in English, it would definitely be a, you don't pay my sub line. You don't pay my sub. So that was being shared around as a bit of a joke. But, that said, the general kind of vibe and response to the idea of DPS pulling ahead, it very is reminiscent of what I think NA was saying. Well, not just NA, Europe too. Any English-speaking community seem to be kind of saying the same things. Veteran tanks are kind of on both sides of the fence. Of course, some get annoyed at the DPS pulling, while others are like, well, whatever, I'll just take aggro. It's not really a big of a deal. So there's kind of both sides, even in Japan. And of course, there are people kind of saying things like, well, now that we're talking about early pulling, why is Elemental... Come to Elemental, come to Elemental. Of course we're talking about come to Elemental. We always have this DPS pulling ahead problem. I will say that on Japan, it is a bit of an issue to an extent. Because especially in leveling dungeons, at least when I played on Elemental a little bit, in leveling dungeons they do kind of single pull. Big pulls aren't as common in leveling dungeons. And I personally don't find a problem with that, only because, especially in leveling, you can kind of have spotty gear in particular. But even in NA anyway, it's expected that you just kind of keep going. But also, there are people kind of saying things like, well, if you're going to talk about the DPS pulling, also you should take a look at the shitty tanks that we have to deal with here on Elemental that can't handle a big pull. This one by Mochi B Beiguru, which is definitely being named, probably being named based on Honeybee. But anyway, so they're kind of saying that, you know, even since ARR, there've been DPS that pull ahead. This has always been a thing. And they don't really have anything to say about... Oops, I bonked my mic. Sorry about that. They don't really have that much to say about it. But if they really said something... You know, tanks that are super slow, so the DPS pull ahead. Healer who lets the tank, that DPS die because they pulled ahead. And the tanks that quietly turn off their stance. All of you are shit. Every single one of these people in this situation are shit. If you have a problem, use your goddamn keyboard and talk. And I think they have a point. They most certainly have a point. I think that's generally the way that I look at it is annoying. But if you don't tell them that you don't want them pulling ahead, how are they supposed to know? Watching some video that said something about, like in JP, they queue savage. They do. But not Duty Finder specifically, Raid Finder. Raid Finder is used. Yes. Raid Finder is regularly used. NA does not. So let me just... In NA, you make a party finder, fill up the party finder, and then you queue for these with a full party in advance. And it will work like a regular duty finder with at the very least duty complete or duty incomplete taken into account. So you can farm EXs and even get your weekly savage in Raid Finder, and I can confirm that. I did parts of Eden for extra practice over on Japan, because I was living in Japan at the time and it was easier for my time schedule. And they do use Raid Finder. The expectation is if you go into Raid Finder, you actually know what you're doing, and you will clear. It's not like it's going to be where you kind of go into those blind. I mean, essentially nobody queues for Raid Finder because people don't use it. We did very briefly use it when it was introduced around Sophia. We used it in Sophia. Unfortunately, immediately after that, we got Zervin, and NA latched onto the idea of SIP, soar, or disband, which often was much easier with a non-standard comp of, I think it was still 2 tanks, but I think it was either, was it 2 tanks, 1 healer, 5 DPS, or was it 1 tank, 2 healers, 5 DPS? Either way, we had 5 DPS, which you can't do in Raid Finder with random selections. So that was one thing that kind of killed it very quickly. I don't want to say that that's the only reason, but I do remember Sophia actually getting Raid Finder usage, but Zervin, because people latched on to the non-standard composition, which Raid Finder won't let you do without preform parties, that kind of killed the usage of it for what little it already have. There's 2 reasons they'll go into PF, yeah, prog, and the other one is they want to follow specific loot rules. So in Raid Finder, loot rules are free-for-all. You know, free-for-all, anybody can roll on whatever. In Party Finder, you'll sometimes find what's called torinuke, which is take and leave, literally translated. Essentially, if you win something, so you start from the left, if you win something, you physically leave the instance so you can only get 1 drop. And that's one way that people do it. So if you want to follow specific loot rules, then you do PF. And if you want to practice, then you also do PF. But if you don't care and want to do free-for-all and just want to get your weekly, you go into Raid Finder and it will pop. During prime time. I don't know about off-peak. Off-peak might still be difficult. I will actually say in my personal experience, this is a personal story. So when I was going through leveling dungeons on JP, I was on Elemental. And it wasn't just ease, okay? So when I mean ease, I mean people that have... So when you look at your personal info, you see those 4 letters, J, E, D, F. Obviously, most players on Japan have J. And if it's underlined, that's the language of their client. So E only obviously means that they're on Elemental but don't speak any Japanese. And it wasn't just English-speaking players that would pull the boss before I got to the boss room. And I was a healer. I was the healer doing these leveling dungeons. Granted, it was my alt and that. And yes, I could skip the cutscenes, but I didn't really want to. Which was really weird. That was a really weird experience. It's very opposite to what I experienced in NA. So yeah, in my experience, it's kind of weird. In NA, you see a lot of people bum rushing and multi-pulling even in leveling dungeons, but then they will halt and stop moving when they get to the boss. But I had an unusually common experience of someone pulling the boss in a leveling dungeon or a story dungeon before I got there as the healer. I was really weirded out by that. Because that's something I don't see often. Occasionally someone auto runs or the like, even in Alliance raid, but I feel like it was oddly more common on Elemental, and I was really like, bro, I'm the healer though. But that's a personal experience story. It really is the same kind of opinions here. So I thought it was really interesting that they kind of had their whole, well, what about DPS pulling ahead of the tanks? So, you know, what about you tank, you pull? Actually, they didn't talk about so much you tank, you pull problem. But Except for the one Mochi, the Mochi B Beiguru tweet. That person with the implication of the you pull, you tank, saying that those people are also bad, right? The next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, so this one is, this was Zumidori. So Gongcha, one thing I was super interested in with Gongcha, I can't find the original tweet, the original post about it. One thing I will say is that apparently Gongcha is in Japan more for high school girls and like that sort of demographic. So there were a couple of people being like, what the hell is Gongcha? What the fuck is Gongcha? And I couldn't find the original article I saw it in. I'm gonna try to do this better in the future, but I did see that Japan has similar issues as, well, not as bad as America, I'm sure. But there were people that were saying, well, my nearest one is at the Aeon Mall, which is a major mall, a chain mall, essentially. There's multiple Aeons in different areas, that's what I'm saying. It's like, if the nearest one is at an Aeon, like, forever away, or there's none in my prefecture, which is essentially about the idea of a state. I was a little surprised because where I used to work when I lived in Japan, got a Gongcha right across the street, and there was a line for like a week. That line was massive for a few days, and it was a decently long line for about a week when it first opened. The next one that I pulled up is funny in a way because it's talking about foreigners. So this one is talking that the title was, oh, foreign players think, well, when I do this quest, it's a real adventure. And somebody shared this quest line where we're in Shalawani. Of course, the picture's helpful. We're in Shalawani, and Aaronville is asking you to pick up literal shit. And they're kind of, when I got this quest, I was like, oh fuck, why are we sticking around burning poop to deal with these stupid bandits? And of course, I kind of agree with this person, where they're saying, it's kind of funny when they dance around the topic and then you check the key item, you're like, oh, that's actual poop. But this time they like kind of outright said it, so it's kind of cringe. Oh, come on, guys, the foreigners think it's the best thing when they get to pick up shit. I can feel it, it's like a real adventure. I know it's a real adventure when I get to pick up literal shit for something. And they're like, is that what like the article you're thinking of was saying? And of course, like, that's gotta be sarcasm, bro, Lamal. So apparently at some point, I don't know which article, I wish I knew which one it is, but apparently some article got it into some Japanese player's head that like, the most important part of an adventure, the real sign that we're on an adventure is when we pick up poop. This is a similar, once again, a similar reaction to Japan. Just to clarify, just to explain, in 7.0, the daily hunts include an alpaca, chat. They are a passive mob that doesn't attack you. And you have to kill them. So of course, here, let's get this. Dear Yoshi P, can you please remove the alpaca from daily hunts? I don't want to hurt such adorable creatures. Why do I have to hunt the alpacas, hunt board? Alpacas are on the hunt list? Crying emoji. This is so sad. The alpacas are passive. I feel so bad knocking out my hunt logs when I have alpacas. I feel like I've committed the worst sin imaginable when I have to hunt them. It hurts my soul. I guess they must have done something if they ended up on the hunt list. My face when I have to kill alpaca. Don't even get started about the players who have to hunt them for the meat. Poor my addition. Poor retainers that have to go hunting them for the meat. Now about Picto. Picto, of course, is ridiculously overpowered, and yes, they are aware of it. Even Japan is saying you probably should nerf it. It's gonna be nerfed. 気力ナーフは仕方がない. Like, of course it's gonna get, you know, nerfed. Or as your anime subtitles would say, it can't be helped if it gets nerfed. Just don't change Smudge! Don't change Smudge! It's really good for in the town. It tackles 2 birds with 1 stone. It's great for movement, and I get to go around town fast. Like, just... And the funniest thing is, down later, it devolved into ridiculous stuff, like... let us stack on Avant and sprint. Let us use Peloton in battle. Actually a good idea, though. I want to have Ifrit, Dash, and Sprint together. Just give all the jobs a movement skill. And of course, at the very end, the finale... Oh yeah, this is 5chan, yeah. Amazing movement. Amazing DPS. Picto God. Or I guess, literally it'd be King, but, you know. And a bit about M2, because of course everybody's talking about M2. They are comparing it to... for those that don't know, there is it Strayborough Deadwalk? Yeah, Strayborough Deadwalk. Or, for short, people are calling it Amusement Park. I suppose I could translate it as Disney World, but I think we'll go with Amusement Park for now, so I don't have to... You know, we're not gonna go about the Disney side. But anyway, so... They're saying it's very similar to the Amusement Park Dungeons boss. And of course, the other factor is the people on the forums are losing their minds, and it's pretty funny. So of course they start off, you know, pointing out like, of course the same person has to be in charge here. The same dude is in charge of M2 and Deadwalk. There's no way. There's no way. The mechanic is practically the same. And of course this guy going like, if the person who made M2 and the amusement park is in charge of Savage, holy shit. Yikes. Did you like the amusement park's mechanic? Well, don't worry. In Savage, we'll crank it up to 11. People on the forums have been so pissed. I've been cackling all morning. Now let me give this. Actually, let me give it with this version on Sokohol. So the title is Strayborough and M2. These 2 fights drive me insane. The noggin mechanic and the heart mechanic. How are either of these enjoyable? You have to disengage so much. What makes mechanics? Why make mechanics that the tank and melee have to leave range so often? The same person is behind both of these, right? Do not let them design a fight ever again. This is absolutely stupid. Do not make unfun mechanics like this ever again. I will make the Strayborough designer pay. I think this one's my favorite comment, though. Of course it's a fucking cat girl. Anyway, their general responses, though, I think they might not be kidding about quitting. And then somebody asking, you know, which one do you think is harder for melee? You know, is 2 harder than 3 and 4? And this person was saying, obviously you can't tell, they're anonymous, but the person replied, or a person replied with, well, yeah, 2's a bit much, you know, but it's possible, right? 3's snooze fest, 4 is just whatever, normal. And someone else replying, 4 normal? If you ask me, 4 has all those stupid huge AoEs that make me leave range for 3 or 4 GCDs, and I hate it. And finally, a thing leading into Savage. Just a small little thing. I'm not going to translate this because this has already been translated way back during Omega, but essentially the reminder everybody about third-party tools. And this is an old thing. You can find this on the official forums, but they're saying, oh, you know, it's like right before the the world race in Savage, you know, the official accounts are kind of quiet. Is this normal? And they're kind of saying, well, they probably don't want to say anything. Wonder if they'll congratulate them this time. Maybe not. What? Wait, hold up. What is this? Wait, hold up. Aaronville chose violence chat. Aaronville chose violence chat. Anyway. Oh. They have this lovely picture of this mountain. And someone said, I feel like something was missing. Like content unlocked. What is this one? Oh. What? Wait, hold on. can you do that? Why can you do that? Oh my goodness. Someone says that the icon looks like a penguin. So they call the skill Extreme Penguin. You know what? I kind of want to call this. I think I want to call it Penguin too. But that wraps up besides one small thing that I did want to bring up. I think if I'm gonna do these, I kind of want to bring these up as well because I think a lot of people aren't really aware when these get announced and when these get posted and these go and release. They are releasing, Taito is releasing a new piece of merch. This is an a mother crystal glass with an LED coaster. They come as a set, and when lit, coaster looks like this. It looks like it has the writing Final Fantasy 14 around it. And there is a secondary version with the symbols of the 12 and with a red. This is limited to Taito arcades, or yeah, arcades specifically. They are about, what was it, 10 centimeters? 10 centimeters or about 4 inches. They are releasing in mid-July. It is expected to release on the 27th, so actually it's already released now because it is the 27th here, but it was the 27th yesterday for Japan. So if this is something that interests you, take a look on Yahoo Auctions Japan, and use Buyee to get it. I strongly recommend that. I think that's something that people miss out on. I remember when the Mountain Dew collab happened and people were like, what? I didn't know these existed. It's like, these existed years ago. So, I strongly recommend taking a look at Taito's official Twitter. I kind of consider that a little oshirase corner, as they say on the PLL, just to kind of put that out there, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of these things when they get released, and I feel like that'd be a nice little way to cap it off. I hope to do this again maybe next week, maybe not next week because we're going to be doing Savage, but maybe in the future I'd like to continue doing this, and kind of go through some of the stuff that's been on Umedori and Sokohol, to kind of give people some of the opinions of some of the Japanese fandom and some of the recent happenings in the Japanese side. Because I think that's something that people are interested in, but there's not that many places to talk about them. So, if you like that kind of stuff, I'd appreciate it if you came by either on stream or in the video when I make it. And yeah, I live stream every day on Twitch and almost every day on Twitch and YouTube. I think the most interesting thing to me probably was when I saw the early poll, as well as the fact that we see the same kind of people complaining. Well, I guess same kind of people might be assuming too much, but we see similar comments about Stray Bro and M2 also in Japan. That's it for this week of Japan shenanigans.